Well, I think psychedelics are incredibly valuable tools, very potent, very effective, but they're not the only way that we can access, if you will, the spiritual nature of our consciousness.
Dr. William Richards, a giant in the field of psychology and psychedelic research, why you consider psychedelics sacred, what they have to do with understanding our consciousness.
Psychedelics clearly have been around a long time, at least since 500 BC, and they emerge in cultures and they get suppressed, and they emerge and they get suppressed, kind of like mushrooms. They grow and they vanish. And right now they're emerging in our culture in the West. My hope, shared by you and many, I think, is that we're finally evolved enough to integrate them wisely and responsibly into our society. Potential to help us awaken to the spiritual depths of our being is immense when they're wisely used. I always like to make the point that there's no such thing as kind of the psychedelic experience. What these miraculous molecules do is give us access to many, many different states of consciousness within us, wherever that is, beyond space and time often.
How intertwined are psychedelics to our evolution as a species?
I think psychedelics are incredibly valuable tools, very potent, very effective, but they're not the only way that we can access, if you will, the spiritual nature of our consciousness, of our minds. There's all the meditative procedures, there's natural childbirth, the runner's high, sensory isolation, sensory overload. Lots of times these profound spiritual experiences happen completely unexpectedly. With psychedelics, it is possible, with the right preparation and dosage, purity of substance, to go very, very deeply and intensively within the mind in a limited period of time, which is hard to do with many of the traditional meditative practices.
What exactly is it that we are connecting with and understanding there?
When people experience it, it feels intrinsically self-validating. It feels more real, more fundamental than the state of consciousness we're in right now. So people often refer to it as homecoming or awakening or becoming enlightened, at least having a taste of what enlightenment might be.
Can you explain your conviction around this idea, right? This idea that there's a source deep within each of us.
Paradox, I guess, when we activate the rational mind, that it's the same and different always. Or there's pure being, if you will, be outside of time and space, and then there's process. And somehow it's both and. But that gets beyond. Maybe a few quantum physicists can talk about it in some language, but for most of us, we make music and write poems that it's very hard to express. Do you choose to trust it? Do you choose to live in harmony with it? And I think it's an intuitive judgment. It's very much like, how do I know I love my wife or my kids? I trust that. I live out of that. I bet my life that it's true. And I think it's that type of intuitive conviction that follows a profound, transcendental, mystical type of experience. It just feels so beautiful, so real. And maybe I can talk about how we try to define it in the research world. But it's intrinsically self-validating, and it remains in memory.
What is the mechanism by which you're able to connect with that trust and that kind of sense of peace?
I've had the opportunity in the past umpteen decades to be with all kinds of people during the action of psychedelics. And I know that many radically different people have had these profound transcendental experiences and talked about them, filled out questionnaires about them, been surprised by them, been awed by them. People from all different religious and non-religious backgrounds, people who really didn't want that kind of experience. What we mean with that term is a state of consciousness that if you write about it or fill out a questionnaire or whatever, it reflects it. A report of a sense of unity, transcendence of time and space, intuitive knowledge, sacredness, awesomeness, deeply felt positive mood, and a claim of ineffability, that you just can't condense it into words. It's beyond language, even though we do the best we can to express it in language.
How you see these two disciplines intersecting through your research and through this whole field, the religious or the spiritual
Sure.
and the scientific.
And the idea is that there are two flavors of science. There's science that limits itself to what can be easily measured and controlled. And then there's what he called true science, that is dealing with the frontiers of human knowledge, creating new vocabulary, formulating new concepts. And that is where he would say the psychedelics are. It's where science, the growing edge of science, is encountering what we call the sacred. It's simply there, and all kinds of people discover it. It's the evidence strongly suggests that it's in the core of each of our minds, that we are all somehow part of a great unity, and that time and space are, as Kant said, are categories of perception, but not necessarily the only way of experiencing reality.
What exactly, like as an individual, we can do to like go down this path of exploring our consciousness?
Well, for starters, I would stress that if you want to explore human consciousness with or without psychedelics, relationships are really important. We call it interpersonal grounding. You're connected to one or more people. You feel grounded in this world somehow. You're connected. You love someone. At least have some good friendships. When you are grounded in good relationships, it's easier to choose to relinquish control and to be an adventurer, if you will, within consciousness. But as you go deep into consciousness, you get beyond the everyday you. And that's often reported as a sense of dying, melting, dissolving, becoming part of something much bigger than your everyday personality, what we call the ego.